guys, I just wanted to show you this new 2007 Tundra rack swap on the FJ Cruiser. Hey guys, this is Walter with Skyronin FJ. A shout out to Luigi and Ryan for giving some tips and some good ideas on this Toyota Tacoma 2007 steering rack upgrade from Solo Motorsports. Solo Motorsports, they're awesome over there. They've been super helpful. You know, I talked to one of the owners over there and they said they're doing their best to try and help people out. Things aren't always perfect, you know, like the bolt holes didn't line up perfectly, but for some builders they do. For me, they were a little off, but this is a mod, so I went and just drilled some stuff out. But they have been awesome over there. They're out in California, and what's cool to me, be in Florida, if I had some late, you know, after the day calls, I was able to call them. So here it is with the boots on, and I'm going to be switching to a video with the boots off so you can kind of see what's going on with that. This is not a 4-hour job. This took me 4 days. Sitting on the concrete, I suggest getting a pad because I'll tell you what, my backside hurts. Everything hurts on my body, and I think this is designed, you know, there's not a lot of room in there for the original FJ Cruiser rack, and for the Tundra rack there's even less room. So reaching your hand in there multiple times, getting this in there multiple times, get a good pair of gloves, get a face shield for when you're grinding up in here because the steering shaft's going to hit. So definitely get a face shield. Wear a mask for all the grinding so you're not inhaling all the steel, you know, fragments in the air. Otherwise, besides safety, and then put your stuff on jack stands. I've got multiple jack stands under here just in case something happens. You're going to be really reefing on the truck and pushing this back and forth. To get the old one out, just get a rubber hammer, piece of wood, something, get it aligned where it's going to come out. You're going to push it out the passenger side first, and then get this big chunk here. You know, you're going to have to take these bolts out for the front diff, so there's nothing here. What I didn't mention in the video that's right after this is the fact that you need to grind these down. So you're going to grind these down as far as possible so you still have some strength in this. And these down here, I ground down to about an 1/8 inch, the mounts that stick up there, okay? Otherwise, get a hammer, pound it out, it'll pop right out. Some people wiggle it out, mine was not going to wiggle out. This one, for some odd reason, the Tundra rack went right in, so I did it so many times, it was like, you know, knowing how to do a Rubik's Cube. I was able to get the left side in, move the right side in a perfect angle, just tap it with my palm, it would go in every time. I pulled it in and out about 8 or 9 times to get this all done. Alright, well, I'm going to merge this with another video. Thanks, guys. Alright, guys. Alright, here's my review of the Solo Motorsports 2007 Tundra steering rack upgrade for the FJ Cruiser. Alright, so I have a 2014. So one difference about dropping into 2007 or something older is I've got my oil filter right there. So 3 bolts, or 1 bolt and 2 nuts, that comes right off. It won't leak unless you dump it sideways, so don't worry about pulling that, but you're going to need to remove that in order to make some room. The front diff bolts you're going to need to take out. You're going to need to grind the mount points down as far as you can. I left about a 1/4 inch. Okay, actually about an 1/8 inch just before the pyramid shape of the mount. And the rear mounts, or the mounts for the actual rack itself, I ground down to about an 1/8 inch on both sides as well. Okay, you're going to have to take the air compressor pump out. Alright, so for my 2014 and all of the setup that I have here, reaching the top far right bolt, there are 3 bolts and 1 nut holding that in. Reaching that top far right one took me 1 hour and 15 minutes to get that out. I did not put that one back in. Okay. It also needs to come out, not only to give you room, but if no one's ever messed with the rack in your FJ before, these bolts are going to be pointing down. So this bolt is so long it hits the the air compressor pump. So you've got to actually take that out. Okay. So when you put it back in, a lot of people just flip this bolt upside down. So that's what I do on both sides. Okay. The FJ Cruiser rack was already, you know, so tight in here that putting the Tundra rack in here, which is bigger, was going to be a lot of work. All right, so I was able to get the old rack out by I literally cut the tie rod off on this end because I didn't want to take it off or waste the time taking it off. And I'm not going to use it again and toss it in the garbage. So I just cut it here. I pushed it out the left side after loosening all these lines, taking the AC out and the oil filter. I was able to push it out the side, and I wiggled it for about 40 minutes trying to get it out of here. I even dropped, the front diff was already dropped, and I was also considering doing what other people do, raising the engine by loosening the engine mounts. I didn't want to do that, so I literally took a rubber hammer, I tapped it one time, it popped out the front, and I pulled it out. So after grinding these down and putting the Tundra rack in, the Tundra rack actually went right in. Alright, so there's two options for the Tundra rack. You can leave the bushings that come with it in there, and you're going to have to cut the pillars out. Okay, so these aren't just bolt holes that hold it in. There's actually pillars inside the frame that stop the frame from crushing when you tighten it down. So you can cut those out and relocate them, or you can use the inserts that came with Solo Motorsports. That's a tongue twister to say that. All right, so notice that the bolt is towards the center the most, okay, toward the center of the vehicle the most. Same thing on the other side, so these need to be rotated as close as possible, because on my 2014, the center of the hole to the center of the hole is 15 inches and a quarter, okay? These spacers that they made are 15 inches, for me, were 15 inches and 3/8. They were off just a little bit. Now, I called the owner of the company, and Solo Motorsports have been awesome, all right? I talked to one of the owners. They always answer the phone. They always help me out. What's really cool is I'm in Florida, so they stay 3 hours later because they're in California, so I can call them in the evening if I have any questions. I called them about this, and they said they did their best to make this line up as close as possible, so you didn't have to do so much fabrication. And honestly, that's the truth. What I had to do over there is I just drilled that hole out just a little bit so I could get that little bit more than I needed, and the bolt went right in. Okay. So once the bolts are in, you're going to tighten this up. You really need to tighten it, and what happens if you really tighten it, it lines it flat, and it allows you to see the spacing you're going to have on your tie rods. Now, I got the tie rods from them as well. These are heavy duty. These are not going to break. All right, and it gave me about a 1/4 inch between this on full steer on both sides. Without tightening them up, my passenger side was actually touching the spring. So I had some concerns there, but once I tighten them all down, I've got full clearance. Okay? All right, so in here I put the boot on, but I don't have a clamp that's going to go on the inside, so I'm just going to pull this out if I can. All right, so this is a clevis setup. This needs to be pointing straight up and down. All right, and then you're going to do Loctite on the bolt that holds it in the center, and you're just going to tighten that down, torque that down. They use a impact wrench. They don't really have torque specs on this. I'm sure you could look that up, but I just tightened it down by hand. And then that's vertical. And then push that back out. I got to go get clamps for that today. All right, and then down here, you don't need the double shear. But Ryan on Facebook, he mentioned, might want to do bolt double shear in there. I was like, that's a good idea. So I went ahead and cut these up, welded these up. I'm going to do some sidewalls on there to strengthen this up, according to Luigi. Thanks, man, for the advice. I had to go get a longer bolt because, again, they said that it's not required. So their bolt that they provided was a 1/2 inch shorter, which would not allow me room for the extra shear. Okay, so I got a 1/2 inch longer bolt. Put that on there, and we're good to go. Okay, so I measured this spacing from here, from the edge, which you can't see now, but the edge of the steering rack and the edge of the mount, or the elbow that holds in here, and it's 1.5 inches on both sides. Okay, so that's how I centered this rack. Some people say, dial it how many times, blah blah, but when I did it anyway and I measured this, it was exactly 1.5 inches on both sides, so that was easier just to measure it here. All right, the steering rod. All right, the steering rod comes off last, so you're going to be able to loosen both ends, but you won't be able to pull it out until you have the old rack out, and you pulled the rack a little bit, and now it will come off on both ends. When you put this new one in, you're going to bring it in, you're going to tighten it down, but then once it's tightened down, you're going to have to bring your steering rod, and you're going to have to measure how much you have to cut off. I had to cut off 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so there's ribs, and I'll show you this on this piece here in a minute. Okay, to get it back in, you have to loosen it back up, you have to pull it back, put both ends back on, have someone hold the other end that's up here. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. Aiming the wrong spot up there. But you can kind of see, right there, you can see the steering rod way back there. Alright, so someone has to line that up, so when you shove on this, now I tried to shove this back again, it wouldn't move. What I had to do is take a pry bar and just lift it up, and for some reason when I lifted it up, it went right back, okay? So I tightened this end on here first, I had someone hold that other end, I then pushed on this, and it went right into place, and then I locked both ends, and then I put this back in, which was not easy. I had to, you know, now I have the resistance of the steering rod, but I had to move it. I was able to get it in there and got both both bolts back in, and we're good. So that's pretty much it. You're gonna have to take the belt off the AC compressor, you know, take this out, loosen all the lines, and now it's in. So what I did to measure this is not only did I measure from here to the other side, from dust shield to dust shield, I also measured from center of the frame right here down to the bend, to the edge bend of the dust shield as well, to get my distance of what it needed to be for the basic alignment before I bring it to the alignment shop. And so I took a photograph of both of that, or all three of those, and I was able to just put it right back to spec. What's really nice is the bars that you get from them. And I ask them, tell them what setup you have, because depending on what lift you have, I've got a 3.5 Total Chaos long travel. Depending on what lift you have is going to be the distance you're going to need on these. So really tell them what your setup is when you order, and they'll tell you what's going on. I don't think I'm missing anything. 68 foot-pounds of torque when you torque in the rack. This one I just did by hand. It's pretty much the same thing. Alright, so the little spout that comes up here on top, you're going to have the two hoses you're going to take off. One's a pressure hose, one's a return, right? So the return one, you're going to take the spout off. Don't bend that. You're going to take that off of your old rack and put it on the new rack. Okay. None of the mounts for the hoses will fit on the new rack, so these are just tightened in here. You know, I'll lock these down somehow, but otherwise they're good for now. That's no big deal. You have to take one bolt off the other side. Just follow these lines. You'll see that these hard lines need to be kind of moved, and there's another bolt on the other side that holds it. All right, filling this baby. So what you're going to want to do is you want to get up there. You want to open your hood. You want to. It's best to leave the tires off. Okay, put it in center. And before this entire process, don't forget to tie or bungee your steering wheel to the center, so that way you know, you got cables in your wheel, so it can only go so many times. Keep it centered, okay? So when you put everything together, it's all centered. You're gonna turn your engine. You're gonna fill up the reservoir to the line where it's supposed to be. You're gonna turn on your engine. You're gonna let it run for 2 minutes before touching the wheel. Then you're gonna take the wheel and you're gonna slowly turn it left and then slowly turn it right. During this process, you're gonna feel that wheel kind of stutter, okay? It's because there's air in the system. So you're then going to center it back up, go out, check your reservoir. Yes, you're going to have to put some stuff in. You're going to do this 2 or 3 times. By the time you're done doing this, the starter will be gone. It will turn smooth. That's it. If you have any questions, post them in the comments or just hit me up on Facebook. All right, God bless you guys. This is Voltaire with Skyronin FJ. Here's that piece I cut out of the steering shaft. It's really not that thick, so that's why I cut it between the ribs and then filled, you know, when I welded it, which turn your heat down because it'll burn a hole in this. I filled up between the ribs, but it's about 3/4 of an inch. All right, I wanted to add this because this took me a while to figure out, and I did some Googling on it. But this bushing is from the 2007 Tundra rack. Okay. So to replace it with the aluminum bushings with the pre-holed drills or holes for you, you need to take these bushings out. Now I Googled around, and what I found was a lot of people are trying to cut this rubber out on certain versions, and then they were pulling the bushing out. Okay, no. All right, so on this one, what I found is it has a lip. It really looks like it's part of the rack, but you want to use a pry bar or a screwdriver and start prying this up around this metal lip. You want to get it, as you're prying it up and hitting it with a hammer, it will start coming out, and you're going to get about 1/4 of an inch out, 3/8 of an inch out, and once you do, it'll pop right out. So I just want to save you time, because I tried to do it the first way, and I said, this is impossible. There's no way that's how you get these out. But that's for you guys.